Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here at Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we are finally getting the review in for X-Men for the Sega Genesis.
Yes, if you were a Genesis kid, if you knew someone who was a Genesis kid, there is a good chance you have played this game and you have some kind of nostalgia for it. It was everywhere. Like, basically everyone I knew at the Genesis, at one point, you either had it, you rented it, you played it, and guess what? You probably didn't beat it either. So, today, we're going to try. We're going to get through it. We're going to give you our thoughts on this classic. Or is it a classic? Originally released in 1993, this was developed by Western Technologies Incorporated and published by Sega. So, the game takes place in a danger room, and a virus is transmitted. Everyone's going, hey, what's going on here? You have to go inside and disable it. Puts you into all these crazy situations. And of course, Magneto's involved. Classic X-Men crap. This was widely based around the extremely popular animated series at the time, and Jim Lee's pretty legendary run in the early 90s. So, it's got a lot going for it. It's got a lot of lore and story to pull from. Let's see if it does it justice.
The graphics. I gotta say, even coming back to this game and knowing it came from 93, we absolutely love the way they did the sprites for all the X-Men, for all the enemies, and even the levels themselves look pretty good. Now in this game, you get the ability to play as Wolverine, Gambit, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler. However, you also get support from Storm, Rogue, Iceman, Archangel, and if you're like Jim and you keep falling down, Jean Grey will come around and pick you up. I love how much detail they put into all the sprites. I love the style. I even love little things like Nightcrawler's Bamf and how it looks. The enemies themselves, sure, they are semi-generic, but the main bad guys and bosses you're going to fight, like Juggernaut, Sabretooth, Mojo, Apocalypse, Magneto, they did not spare on any of those details, and you really couldn't have asked for more. The backgrounds, while they do vary and there are a decent number of levels, they kind of just, you tend to ignore them because the sprites do take up a lot of that screen and you are so focused on the action. Doesn't mean they skimped on any of the backgrounds, and like Jim said, this is very true to the comics back in the day. So if you were an X-Men fan, this was everything you ever wanted out of a game, and honestly, we couldn't praise this one enough for how it looked. So when it came to scores, I gave it an 8, Jim gave it a 9. There's not much to really knock here. They knocked it out of the park, so I'll give it 1 beer for how damn good it looked.
The sound. We're going to get this right out of the way. It's probably a higher score than it deserves because of nostalgia. This uses the infamous Gems engine, which a lot of people did some good work with, and there is some to be found here. The music really varies in this game, which is a good thing because there's a lot of different tracks, but the quality's all over the map. Some of it's more ambient noise, some of it's just unpleasant to listen to, but then you get tracks like the Shi'ar Empire that I've been freaking humming in my head for 30-some years. So, I mean, you have some great, you have some crap, and you have the sound effects, which, oh boy. Now, they do, for the most part, a good job of recreating the sounds you would expect, like Nightcrawler's Bam, for Wolverine, retracting the claws, the shink shink, all that stuff. Even some of the sound effects of enemies and the explosions that you have to deal with are cool. But some stuff is just so jarring. Like, when you're in a Savage Land and you hear Sauron just fly across with that shriek of his, it just comes out of nowhere, and you might jump from it. God knows we did when we were kids. You have the little annoying sounds like the bees flying around, which I don't know what they think a bee sounds like, but that ain't it. This even applies to like friendlies that help you out, like Iceman, like when he's zooming across and putting his little ice bridge up. It's the same sound as other guys on hovercrafts. It's kind of weird where they pick and choose what they want to use, but for the most part, we still think it's a solid sound package, even though it's not amazing, and no, it doesn't have the cartoon's theme song. And so in case you were wondering and you've never played the game before, it's not there. I know, it's disappointing. But with all that being said, we still gave it 7s. Again, we know it's some tough nostalgia to break, but for what it is, we still enjoy it. And when it comes to beer, I'm going to give it 1 sad beer for that total lack of the classic cartoon theme.
The control. This is one area where the game starts to take a little bit of a nosedive. While they did try to keep it simple and just have it be a beat 'em up, and I can't blame them because early 90s, that's what you want to do. And especially for an X-Men game, like all you want to do is use mutant powers, beat up bad guys, keep it simple. So the control really boils down to the ability to jump, attack, use your special, and call in some of those supporting characters. Certain characters have the ability to do a double jump or a spin jump, and if you hold down the jump button, it actually allows you to jump a little bit higher. So for the most part, you're like, well, how could that be bad? There is just a stiffness to all the characters that unless you play, you really won't understand. There's a slight delay in the attack, but honestly, after like the first level, you're going to get used to it. The jumping, as we said, is so goddamn stiff, and you know, God forbid you're playing with two people and one is too far ahead, you miss a jump, you're going to be getting picked up by Jean Grey every other jump because doesn't feel that fluid of the game. Using your powers, depending on who you're using, can feel good or it can be a little bit annoying. Jim will get more into that into the gameplay, but there's just something off that always makes this game feel a little cheesy. Like, I never want to just have to duck and punch as an X-Men. I want to be able to run forward, do certain things, and depending on who you play as, like if you're Nightcrawler, you're probably just going to do the jump kick button over and over, or you're just going to bamf through the level because you're trying to get past a whole bunch of enemies. So with that being said, the control is not great, but you can definitely get used to it. So we gave it 6s. When it comes to beer, I'm just going to give it 2 because it is annoying, and Jim will touch on it in gameplay, that your powers use up a meter, and just the general stiffness. You got to loosen it up.
Alright, the gameplay. So, what this comes down to, it's an action platforming beat 'em up. I mean, there were about 10,000 of these types of games back in the 90s, especially during this era. And yeah, I mean, by the numbers, it does that job pretty well. You move around, you have different platforming segments, you have all these actions, you have guys you got to beat up left and right, secret spots, secret items, all the kind of stuff you'd want to see from a game like this. But there's a problem, and the first and most obvious is that the game is way too goddamn hard. This game is insanely hard. And this is a game that was meant, I mean, probably mainly for kids, given how popular the cartoon and everything was. Because, like, the platforming, even right away, first level, Savage Land, there are so many instances where if you don't know what you have to do, where you have to go, you're going to fall into a pit. You're going to fall into spikes. You're going to go the wrong way. You're going to get killed. You're going to walk at enemies you didn't expect. You're going to get hit off screen by so much stuff. Now, granted, it does a good job of, you know, putting it in your head that there's going to be some workarounds with that, like riding on Sauron to skip half of the Savage Land in the second act. But, you know, even trying to figure out where the switch is and the levels and everything like that are, it can be insane. And that's just the first level. Once you go further and further in, it just gets harder and harder and harder. And this is where learning all your characters really comes into play. Cyclops and Gambit can jump higher, and there's double jumps, and they can do better jobs with that. Wolverine can, you know, he can be your tank, and he can regenerate if you stay still. Granted, it takes a long time to do that, but it comes in handy. Nightcrawler, dear God, his ability to just teleport through walls. It's janky to use, like everything else in this game, it's janky to control, but there are just some levels that are just straight up mazes. And using him just cuts through all the bullcrap so fast. So, I mean, honestly, in order of useful characters, I'd say Wolverine's the one you're going to go to the most. Nightcrawler is very useful. And then Cyclops and Gambit they're there. They have, like, you know, some bouncing attacks, stuff that can hit wider areas, but their attacks aren't that strong. And there's only a few instances where you really need to rely on ranged attacks. So, I mean, obviously you want to keep them around for that. It makes life easier. But outside of that, I don't know, man. I almost never try to use them unless I have to. And when you have to is when characters die, because there's no lives in this game. You have 4 characters, they each have a life bar, that's it. You can replenish items, health, and, you know, the mutant powers during the course of a level when you find the power-ups, and in the danger room scenes between most of the levels, you can find these little orb things that you can hit to regenerate power too. But it doesn't regenerate it for everyone, just the character you're on. So, Now you have to get strategic as well, figuring out what character you want to heal up before you go into the next level. So that's fun. And this is also one of those delightful games that if you play it on easy, you only go through the first 3 levels, and then it's game over. So you have to get good. And by get good, I mean get really friggin' good. Let's put it this way. I played the absolute hell out of this game as a kid. Absolute hell out of it. And I somehow made it up to the final Magneto fight exactly 1 time. And I lost, and I just went, I can't do it again. And I never went back until trying to record for this video. The problem with Magneto, as with most of the bosses in this game, they are so damn hard. Unless you have your helper characters there to do some major damage to them at first, they're almost impossible. Their hitboxes are so small, they have such incredible range, they take so much life off of you with every hit. It's friggin' nuts. And Magneto, that son of a bitch, you can only hit him after you like run around the level in a certain way, jump off the ledge at the right time, and hit him right in the middle of a certain animation after blocking an attack. Like, I don't know how anyone was supposed to figure this out on their own. So that's just doing it single player. And now if you do it with multiplayer, then you get the fun that Brian alluded to where if you go a little bit too far, Jean Grey's picking you up, carrying you back over, or you stand there waiting, or you're walking into an invisible wall, or your guy's just dying next to you, and then, oops, there goes my help, and there goes one of the characters I need to get through this friggin' game. So it's one of those games where it's almost, well, it is a detriment to play multiplayer. I mean, we finished it off, but you know what? We had to use codes because there's no way in hell we were going to get past Magneto without it. So this is just a hard son of a bitch. It has a lot of cool ideas, but it's so friggin' hard and unfair that it keeps it from being... You need a balance. Even hard games need a balance. This game's just unfair. So that's why we gave it 5s. And when it comes to beer, I'm going to give it 3 beers. 1 for being too damn hard, 2 for being nearly impossible with the second player, and 3 for just being so friggin' relentlessly unfair. Enemy placement, bosses, jumping, everything. It is just made to screw you.
The originality I can keep short because, as we mentioned, this came out at a time where action platformers were all the rage. So mechanically, this game really did nothing different. This wasn't even close to being the first X-Men game, and it honestly wasn't even the first really good X-Men game because we did have the arcade game by this point. But there is one thing they really threw at you that, you know what, I can admit we hadn't seen, and that's that stupid-ass Mojo level. As a kid, once you beat Mojo, you think, am I done? You walk around. You don't really know what you have to do. Well, they got cute with it, and you needed to physically reset your Genesis. Now, that is a big problem if you decide to use like the Nomad, or if you have certain emulation things that don't have that ability. You actually can't get past that level unless you use a level skip code or it's something that's built in. I get it. I do like when games get gimmicky with things, but this was such a dumb thing. And to Jim's point, just like how hard the game is, how the fuck would you know that if you didn't buy a guide or you didn't have a friend back in the day? You didn't have internet, so you couldn't rely on that. So I remember thinking I beat the game way back when, just didn't even know till years later, like, oh no, you just have to do this like reset code. So with that being said, for originality, we could only give it a 2. It seems harsh, but honestly, everything else we've seen from X-Men, from action platformers, it was just that Mojo level. So when it comes to beer, I'm going to give it 2, because, come on, man. Give some better hints that you got to do dumb shit like that.
All right, replayability, I can keep very short. It's got multiplayer, so it automatically gets a 5 from us. And Brian kept the score there, but I gave it a 6 just for how insanely hard it is. And if you really are a masochist who wants to try and beat this game, you're going to be replaying it a lot. That's not like true replayability, it's bullshit replayability, but replayability it is. So yeah, Brian gave it a 5, I gave it a 6. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to give it 1 for... Man, multiplayer really is useless in this game.
So overall, Jim and I, we tried to be as fair as possible. Yes, we had a lot of nostalgia, and that opening track, as soon as you hear it, there's like a little bit of joy. You're like, oh, this game is actually pretty good. You get through the first level, you're like, all right, still, has some bumps. Hitting level 2 or 3, like Jim said, the difficulty spikes, the issues with the control, some of the sounds, they wear on you. And if you are brave enough to try and get through the whole thing, you're going to get really pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much more to say. This is one of those games that it's pure nostalgia for me. This is my childhood. I'll always love it, but it's like begrudging love. It's like a parent you kind of hate. It's like, yeah. Got a little deep there. It's like, yeah, they've always been a pain in the ass, but they're still, they're still family. And that's what I kind of feel like with this game. I'd love to hate you.
Yeah, so with that, I mean, for scores, we both gave it a 5 overall, and when we round it all together, it comes out to a 5.6. That's about as fair as you can get it. You can make arguments it should be even lower, but honestly, it's not the worst game. It is playable, has its difficulties, but, if you're an X-Men fan, this is not a must-try, but if you were someone like Jim and I who grew up with it, you probably already had the memories, so.
If it was just a little more fair, it would be an all-timer.
Yeah.
So close.
But with that, make sure you come back because we only did this review because we got a request to do the X-Men 2 Clone Wars. And we decided, you know what? We have so much love for this. When else are we going to get a chance to talk about it? So make sure you come back and check out that review as well. With that, we want to say thank you guys. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. See you next time.
When it comes to beer pairing, I decided to go with a beer that's just strong enough to help you through these tough-ass levels, so I went with the Mutant Brewing Company's Mutant Serum. This is a hazy IPA coming in at 6.5%, offers a ton of flavors, and it might help mend all those damn falls you're going to go through. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly.